Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to unpack a truly wild and fascinating source text. We're looking at a document from June 29, 2010, that frames modern geopolitical and technological issues through, well, a pretty unconventional lens. It's presented as a spiritual dialogue with none other than Adam Smith, the famous founder of modern economics. Now, whether you're deeply familiar with classical economics or just kind of curious about how an 18th century philosophy might apply to today's world, this text offers some seriously thought-provoking perspectives. It literally takes Smith's classic theories and projects them straight onto 21st century dilemmas. So let's dive right into this text, focusing specifically on Chapter 4. The author uses this dialogue format as a really unique mechanism to critique current global events and makes some incredibly bold predictions about our future. It's a deeply curious framing device, right? Bypassing your standard political commentary by invoking the perspective of the ultimate classical economist. We're going to neutrally explore the ideas presented here to really understand the text's core arguments. To make sense of all these wide-ranging predictions, we're breaking things down into 5 quick sections today. First, the dialogue with Adam Smith. 2. Space, the next frontier. 3. China's decade of crisis. 4. Japan's path to survival. And 5. The invisible hand today. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1. Dialogue with Adam Smith, a modern lens. Now, you already know the famous classical concept of the invisible hand, but what's so interesting here is how radically the text reinterprets it. Instead of just applying it to individuals buying and selling goods, the author expands it to the unstoppable flow of digital information and even humanity's cosmic expansion. The argument is that this unseen force of progress is so fundamental that governments absolutely cannot suppress it without facing severe consequences. Moving right along to Section 2, Space, the next frontier. The dialogue presented here explicitly compares the push for space development to humanity's built-in drive for freedom and movement. According to the text, it is literally human nature to explore the unknown. Just as ancient peoples migrated and crossed oceans to seek out better lives and new resources, the text argues that expanding into space is the natural, completely inevitable next step for elevating our civilization stage. And they make a direct historical parallel here, comparing the massive economic potential of modern space exploration to the voyages of Columbus and Magellan. Think about it. When those explorers first set sail, people back home probably questioned the immediate economic benefit, right? They likely asked, what is the point of sailing west to find India? Yet those voyages opened up entirely new eras of global trade and wealth. The source argues that space holds that exact same potential for us today. It is essentially our modern age of discovery. So the crucial point the text is making is that space development shouldn't just be some side project. It needs to be a primary, overarching national goal that will yield massive economic dividends down the line. The text is actually pretty critical of short-term government spending, comparing it unfavorably to, say, planting trees of gold for the future. By investing heavily in aerospace and robotics, a nation doesn't just go to space, it creates entirely new sectors of employment and technology right here on Earth. It's very much analogous to the huge economic ripple effects we're seeing from the push for Mars exploration in the 2030s. Let's shift gears to Section 3, China's decade of crisis. The text posits that a decade of crisis is kicking off in China, mainly because the intense friction between rapid economic growth and a strictly controlled political system has finally hit a breaking point. The author's stance is that you simply cannot maintain a massive, dynamic economy while simultaneously trying to micromanage and control every single aspect of it. Eventually, the sheer weight and natural flow of those economic principles will overpower totalitarian constraints. And according to the dialogue, a major catalyst for this impending crisis is a brand new, totally unexpected trial for the regime: cell phones. The text points out that while state-run media might broadcast a highly controlled, curated narrative, everyday citizens are quietly building an entire underground economy of information. Through mobile networks, regular people are texting and sharing the actual truth about the economy and current events, completely bypassing official channels. The text predicts a very specific sequence of events here. Step 1, undeniable national economic growth enriches the population. With that new wealth comes Step 2, the widespread adoption of technology, specifically mobile phones. This leads directly to Step 3, which is the uncontrollable spread of underground information. And finally, the invisible hand, that unstoppable force of human exchange and desire for truth, steps in to trigger systemic change.
The text even suggests this could culminate in a peaceful revolution, simply because the state can no longer suppress the economic and informational reality of its own people.
Now let's look at Section 4, Japan's Path to Survival.
The dialogue takes a pretty sharp pivot here, arguing that a government run entirely by bureaucrats totally stifles the creativity, wisdom, and ingenuity of everyday citizens. True prosperity, the author argues, naturally bubbles up from the bottom through market creativity. You can't just mandate it through top-down administrative control. And to get specific, the text sharply criticizes the Khan administration's domestic landscape. It specifically targets their stated goal of a minimum unhappiness society, along with their heavy focus on national debt and tax increases. The author views this as a fundamentally pessimistic, shrinking view of what a nation can be. Instead, the dialogue argues that Japan's true path to survival means aggressive investment in the future. It's about driving continuous technological innovation and constantly creating new value, rather than just nervously managing a decline.
Wrapping things up with Section 5, The Invisible Hand Today. The overarching takeaway from all these pages is pretty clear. Trying to suppress economic realities or failing to invest in grand future visions will inevitably lead to systemic failure. Whether it's a government trying to put a lid on the smartphones of its citizens, or an administration focusing entirely on debt rather than technological frontiers, the end result is stagnation. True growth, the text argues, requires actually trusting the invisible hand, trusting human ingenuity, the free exchange of ideas, and the bold pursuit of whatever lies next. As we finish up this explainer, I'll leave you with this thought to chew on. Whether you completely agree with the text's predictions or view them simply as a really unique philosophical exercise, the core question it raises is super powerful. How might the unseen forces of economics, human desire, and information exchange silently be dictating the very next chapter of human history right this second? It's definitely something worth considering. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep questioning the forces that shape our world.